Boldwood presents One Dark Summer, written by Saskia Sarginson and read by Anna Burnett and Gloria Sanders. A riddle. Who chooses me must give and hazard all he has. The Merchant of Venice.
Prologue. My fists hurt from beating them against the side of the container. My throat is raw from screaming. Out there, in the world, people are rushing home from work to make tea and catch the next episode of their soap opera. They don't know how lucky they are, how privileged. I'd do anything to be like them. To be safe in my ordinary, mundane existence, knowing who I love and where I belong. I used to be one of the lucky ones, but not anymore. I've made the biggest mistake of my life, and it's too late to go back. I hug myself, cradling my aching hands. Fiery pain shoots through the muscles in my thighs and spine. I can hardly turn around in here. There's only just enough space to sit huddled over with my legs bent. When I can't stay in that position any longer, I shift with difficulty onto my knees, the crown of my head pressing against the container. Panic is a pressure on my chest. There's not enough room, not enough air, not enough breath in my lungs. I don't know if he's going to let me out, or what he'll do to me if he does. Nobody else knows where I am except one person, and there's no way she'll help me, not after what I did. My body convulses with shivering. I can't stop. I lean my head against the side of my velvet-lined prison, hard, dry sobs sticking in my throat. I should never have come here. I should have left the past alone. It's black as the grave. The air is stale. Shouting has made me light-headed. Oh God, I don't want to die. Locked in a metal box. Trapped and helpless in the dark.
Part 1. Chapter 1. Meg. Now, 2008. This is what I remember. A lot of blood, a sudden red spurt sticky in his hair, shocking against his skin, and water, a weight of dark water sucking him down. Then he was gone. Nothing else comes back to me, but I can't shake off the feeling of guilt. The feeling that it was me, that I did something bad. People say going back to the place where it happened will jog lost memories, allow neurons to make connections, firing up the past, spitting out the truth. It's been 15 years since I was last in the house where it all went wrong, where even as a child I sensed secrets clogging the air. That changes today. My taxi pulls up outside Deben Manor. The driver cuts the engine and wipers stop mid-wipe. Rain speckles the windscreen. "That'll be £5, love," he says over his shoulder. I fumble inside my purse for the fare, pressing it into his outstretched palm, and take my first proper look at the place. Through the distortion of raindrops on glass, the Georgian house holds no sign of the darkness I unleashed the last time I was here. No trace of the tragedy I caused. Its stone facade is stalwart, its large, lighted windows promising warmth inside its sheltering walls. As I get out of the cab, the front door of the house is flung open, and a statuesque blonde woman strides out into the drizzly morning. My breath catches in my throat. The cab has already driven off, disappearing down the drive. I glance at its retreating shape. I should have told him to wait. What if I need to make a quick exit? The blonde woman looks at me, and as her gaze travels over my face, the muscles in my shoulders tense. My jaw is clenched so hard my teeth hurt. I'm wearing a purposefully unexceptional outfit of white shirt, black V-neck jumper, straight-cut clean jeans, and cheap trainers. I withstand her scrutiny without blinking, as if I'm in a police lineup and I'm the suspect. It feels like an eternity, but it's probably only seconds before she steps forward with her hand outstretched. "Margaret Danby," she grins. "You have no idea how much I've been looking forward to your arrival." "Mrs. Manners?" We shake. "Pleased to meet you." A large ring on her finger digs into my flesh as she squeezes. If I'd had to spend one more minute without help, well, let's just say the corkscrew was already in my hands. She laughs, her generous mouth pulling back to expose perfect white teeth. She doesn't have a clue who I am. Relief. Triumph. But a tiny part of me smarts at this proof of how little she ever knew or cared about me, how unnoticeable I was all those years ago, and still am now. And yet, of course, it's what I've been counting on. Two flaxen-haired children tumble out of the house behind their mother. They are wild-eyed and barefoot, faces smeared with what looks like strawberry jam. The youngest has his trousers on inside out, his curls flopping in an unruly tangle over his forehead. "These are the Rugrats," she says, pointing at them in turn. "Kit is 3, and this is Artemis. She's 5. Hello." I bend down to smile at them, hoping they can't smell my fear. "I'm Margaret. It's lovely to meet you." I stop myself on remarking on their shoeless state. It will sound like a criticism of their mother. "Do we call you anything for short?" the woman's asking. "No," I say quickly, straightening up. "Just Margaret." For all her gushing enthusiasm, she's distracted, impatient to get this meet and greet over and done with. It gives me a chance to notice the small frown lines etched between her immaculate eyebrows and her nervy mannerisms. She's dressed in a pale pink cashmere sweatshirt and matching joggers with caramel Ugg boots, and her wrists jangle with bracelets. "Call me Ophelia," she says. "We don't stand on ceremony here." She turns, tripping over the little boy, and tuts. "God, Kit, you're always in the wrong place. Anyway, come in, she continues, beckoning. "Let's get out of this weather." She shivers. "God, doesn't January just make you want to slit your throat?" Picking up my case, I follow her into a spacious hall, getting a fleeting impression of wine-coloured wallpaper and gilt mirrors, instead of familiar forest green walls hung with paintings and drawings and animal heads. But there's the wide staircase I remember, and the stone-flagged floor, and I glimpse half-glazed double doors that lead into the sitting room and a passageway towards the kitchen. I was expecting a clutter of tennis rackets, life jackets, hockey sticks, a basket of kittens, but of course they're not here anymore. I follow her towards the glazed doors and stop dead, as if I've run into a barrier. At the end of the hall, a bigger-than-life-size portrait of a middle-aged man stares down at me, a slight half-smile at his lips, eyes blue as a kingfisher's wings. It's the first time I've seen his face in 15 years. I raise a hand to cover my mouth and force myself to walk on. Ophelia is hurrying ahead as if we're on a tight schedule, gesturing left and right as she walks briskly past closed doors. The cloakroom, the utility room, then that's my husband's study. He works in London. She glances over her shoulder. He's away on a business trip at the moment. Makes the house feel quieter, though my sisters are coming over tomorrow. I swallow my gasp. Thea and Clem. I didn't think I'd have to meet them so soon. I glance behind at the front door, my instinct to bolt back through it and run down the gravel drive, but I take a deep breath and follow her further into the house. The three sisters were always inseparable. When I'd done an internet search, Thea had come up as a fashion designer, working locally, and Clem an actress based in Suffolk. Predictable, glamorous career choices, although I'd imagined they'd be living in far-flung places by now, rather than staying close to where they'd grown up. We're in a large, light-filled room with 2 French windows leading onto the garden. Ophelia has completely redecorated in here, too. 3 squashy sofas covered in bright cushions are arranged around a coffee table piled with art books. There are fat-bottomed glass lamps on the side tables, and the floor is an expanse of nubbly sisal carpet. The colour of the walls and floor-length linen curtains are shades of cream, probably from some fancy company, each one called something like pale clay or mushroom or old paper. It could be featured in any one of the glossy interior magazines I flipped through in the dentist's waiting room. I wasn't expecting the makeover. It jars, this facelift to the old place. But not everything has gone. I turned to examine 3 large oil paintings on the wall, portraits of young women with long hair and dreamy eyes. My sisters and I, Ophelia explains. My mother's an artist. She painted my father too. She gestures towards the hall and the portrait of the blue-eyed man. Sadly, he's no longer with us. I'm sorry to hear that, I mutter. I study the pictures of the girls. I've seen them in my dreams, recreated them in my mind many times, and here they are, intangible swirls of oil, within touching distance, exactly where they'd hung all those years ago. The paintings have the feel of a John Singer Sargent. Each girl is wearing a silk dressing gown with a Chinese design and languishes in a velvety armchair, with her chin tilted, long bare legs sprawled. I examine them in turn. As I'm looking at a white-haired girl, rounder-cheeked and more languorous than the honed and tense goddess in front of me, I turn to her. Oh, I say, as if I've just twigged the resemblance. It's you. My gaze travels back across the portraits, resting on the pendants each subject wears on a chain around her neck, a gleam of gold at their breastbones. Ophelia is grimacing. Nice to have a memory of youth. I'm an old hag now, she says in the cheerful tone of the disingenuous. Worn out by these 2. She glances at the children, who have climbed on one of the sofas and are dangling headfirst over the back. I don't usually let them mess around in here, she says, frowning. There's a playroom. I rescue Kit from falling on his skull, hoisting him under my arm. It's a lovely house. I set the toddler down on his feet, whereupon he rushes straight back to clamber onto the cushions again. She shrugs. It's been in the family for years. We lived here as children, and it's lucky me that gets to live here now. One day my sisters and I will inherit, and then I guess we'll have to make a decision, about whether to sell or not. Your mother's still alive, then? She nods, the lines deepening between her eyebrows. She's retired to France. Anyway, she says, giving me a dazzling smile. I'll show you to a room, shall I? And then maybe you could dive straight in and give the kids their lunch. My attention is caught by a framed engraving over the mantelpiece. I go over and gaze at it. A horse rearing on its hind legs, a hare crouching underneath, an unravelling scroll between its paws. It's the exact design on the pendants. My stomach contracts. The Aldridge family crest, she says. My father's side of the family. The design goes back hundreds of years. She shrugs. I found it in his things. Thought it deserved framing. She's standing by the door, tapping her toes with impatience. Shall we? She's already heading into the hall, and I have no choice but to trot after her, case in hand, the children following behind. Nothing strange about 3 sisters owning pendants engraved with the Aldridge family crest. Precious heirlooms passed down. Except I've recently discovered a Polaroid of another woman with the same necklace around her neck. A 4th pendant. I can't ask her where she got it from or why she's wearing it because she's my mum and she's been missing for the last 15 years. Everyone has given up on finding her, except me. And now that I have the Polaroid, the place to start is here. Even though returning to Deben Manor makes me feel like a frightened 11-year-old again, and every corner is filled with lurking memories, one of which might reveal the truth of what I did that summer. If I'd been a better daughter, more interesting, more helpful, more generous, then maybe Mum wouldn't have deserted us. My funny, beautiful mother, who read tarot cards, loved seals, and danced barefoot around the kitchen table, who wore Indian skirts and hennaed her hair and wasn't like anyone else's mum, but who, best of all, made me feel loved. Except she hadn't loved me enough. Not enough to stay. She'd walked out on me and Dad one summer morning. For years and years, an echoing silence. No message, no news, no clues. She would never have abandoned me or Dad without any communication at all. No birthday cards, no telephone calls, no contact to say that she was all right. It doesn't make sense. For a long time I couldn't sleep for trying to work it out, wondering if I'd missed something, if she'd left anything behind that might help me solve the riddle. I'd only found the envelope behind a chest of drawers in Dad's flat because I'd pulled the drawer right out looking for the Monopoly set. The chest had come from our cottage. I'd shaken the envelope contents onto my bed, and a single Polaroid picture of my mother fell out. I thought at first Dad had taken it, but he's never owned a Polaroid camera. There Mum was, shockingly herself, smiling in slightly faded colour with the pendant around her neck. She must have moved just as the picture was taken because her right side was blurred. She was raising her hand, as if waving to me across the years. I'd held the picture close, staring at the necklace. Blood pounded in my ears. Why was she wearing a rare design belonging to a blue-blooded Suffolk clan? A family who had heraldic animals on shields, and a family tree with roots reaching back in time. Mum always said she'd been an orphan, a child who grew up in care at the other end of the country. And if it wasn't Dad behind the lens, pressing the button, then who? My room is at the back of the house, so rather than the expanse of garden at the front, it faces north, with a view of outhouses and a cluster of dark trees. It's the same room I stayed in as a child. I just have time to glance around and put my case on the single bed before Ophelia is hurrying me back downstairs and into the kitchen. It's a farmhouse-style kitchen, redone since I was last here, with fitted cream cupboards with wooden knobs and heavy granite tops speckled with grey. The floor is solid oak boards, and the industrial-sized stainless steel fridge-freezer is big enough to feed a small army. Her mobile rings and she picks it up. "I'm on my way," she says in a low voice. I know. She's just arrived. I'll be with you soon." She ends the call with a click and hoists Kit onto his booster seat as she gestures towards the fridge. "Just give them whatever you think best. They're not fussy, and everything is organic." Then she's gone, with no explanation about where to, or when she'll be back. Neither of the children seem bothered by their mother's departure or about being left with a stranger. I guess they're used to it. It was my agency who alerted me to the job vacancy. "You're from Suffolk, aren't you?" my agent had asked. "I think you'll want to apply for this one. Good money, too." When I realised where the job was, it felt like fate. I didn't even need an interview. I got the position on references alone. I find a bag of dried pasta in one of the cupboards, some mushrooms and cheese in the fridge, and concoct a creamy sauce on the electric ring of the forest green range while the pasta boils and bubbles. The kids have been playing a private game involving rude-sounding noises, but when I put their plates in front of them, Kit pushes his away, bottom lip quivering. Sausage, he says. It's not a question or demand. It's a statement of intent. Artemis picks up her fork and daintily scoops up a mouthful. God, Kit, you're such a baby, she says, in an uncanny impersonation of her mother. Then she looks at me. He only likes sausages. The fridge is empty of anything resembling such a thing. I sit at the table and consider my small charge. His chubby face is flushed, and the congealed remains of strawberry jam make him look as though he's suffering from a nasty skin condition. His long, wet lashes are spangled with quivering tears. There are none in the fridge, I explain, as I give his face a quick wipe with a damp cloth before he can wriggle away. And I don't have transport to get to the shops. We'll have to think of something else for you to eat. He shakes his head violently. I want sausage, he gasps. I predict a full-blown tantrum in approximately 1 minute if I don't do something to distract him. I rummage in the rest of the cupboards, offering different items, trying to make a joke of it while Kit sobs and shakes his head, and his sister eats her meal with a look of smug satisfaction. Eventually, he accepts some sliced banana, a handful of salt and vinegar crisps, and a couple of pickled artichokes from a jar I find at the back of a drawer and suspect might be out of date. But I remember Mum saying sell-by dates were all a con, and that the numbers were only there to make people paranoid and the manufacturers more money. Did she ever live in this house? Is there a fourth pendant, somehow lost by the family, that she'd bought in a second-hand shop? It seems unlikely. The pendant isn't even the sort of jewellery she'd once liked. She didn't usually wear any, only her gold wedding band and a silver ring with a round opal. When her hand moved, the milky white surface of the stone flashed rose and blue, golden yellow and leaf green, the colours shining from deep inside the stone as if coming up through water. It represents hope, she told me. Hope, clarity, and truth. I stand up and look out of the rain-speckled window, across the long expanse of lawn towards the bare beech trees that stand sentinel along the lane, and beyond that, only 3 miles away across the marshes, past the village of Charsford, is the river. If I followed it, I'd come to the cottage we once lived in. I wish I could remember my last moments with her, but all I recall is the smell of cut grass coming through the window as I ate a bowl of cereal. I didn't know I had to pin every detail into my mind. Mum has never been reported as a missing person. She'd left home voluntarily, leaving a note saying we weren't to look for her. When I told Dad that I planned to go and ask the police to investigate the possibility that she'd been kidnapped, he'd argued at first, but realising I couldn't be dissuaded, he went to see them himself. He went alone, wearing a shirt and tie, his hair carefully plastered down. When he'd returned, he'd shaken his head. They won't take it seriously, love. She's over 18 and there's no evidence of foul play. She left a note, so as far as they're concerned, she's a runaway. She would have gone off to London, to the bright lights, not stayed around here. But I knew differently. Mum hated the city. She belonged in the wild. She would never have left this area. She would never have chosen to desert me. Chapter 2. From the moment I planned my return to Deben Manor, I was haunted by a nightmare in which Ophelia points her manicured finger at me. "My God," she whispers, "you're her, aren't you? Our cousin Meg the mouse." Then she shudders, her gaze cold. "Leave my house," she says, voice rising. "Get out! How dare you come back!" But we haven't met since I was 11. When Ophelia last saw me, I'd been short and chubby, my round face covered with freckles. My freckles faded as I put on a belated growth spurt in my teens, puppy fat melting away as I'd shot up, becoming tall and skinny like Dad. The grown-up me is a beanpole with jutting hips, my broad and angular shoulders the kind found on professional swimmers. Ironic, as I'm afraid of water. After the agency confirmed I'd got the job, I dyed my mousy hair in the sink using a packet from Boots. The result is more ploughed field than the promised mahogany, but the stronger shade has made the tone of my skin look pinker, which is a bonus. I've swapped my normal contact lenses for brown ones to disguise my grey eyes. And at the last minute, after a bout of nerves that I needed even more of a disguise, I went to the hairdresser and sat for hours inhaling chemical fumes to have a perm. Every time I glance in a mirror, I'm shocked by my new corkscrew curls, surprised if they tickle my face. My efforts seem to have paid off. But what about Thea and Clem? When they turn up, will my changed appearance fool them too? Do they know what happened that morning? Dad reassured me it wasn't my fault. But when someone keeps telling you that, you know they're really suggesting the opposite. I don't know what the family think, but their silence is a clue. None of them have spoken to me since. There are gaps in my memory, repeating images that don't join up, don't make sense. A sudden flow of blood, my hand clasping something hard, panic like trapped wings in my chest. At the end of my first day, it's a relief to go to bed and close the door. Coming here has been even more nerve-wracking than I'd expected. Not much has changed in my old room. The beige carpet is spotted with stains. There's a battered pine chest of drawers in the corner, and the same checked curtains droop across the window. There are signs of a previous occupant, glittery stickers peeling on the window, a toweling dressing gown left behind, hanging from a hook on the door. And when I push my unpacked suitcase under the bed, I find a month-old women's magazine and an odd sock forgotten in the dust. They must have belonged to the nanny before me. After Mum disappeared, Dad sent me here for the summer holidays. He said he couldn't work and look after me, and it would be nice for me to get to know my cousins. I could tell he was trying to be cheerful about it, and it was as if I heard Mum whispering, "Put on a brave face." So I tried, even though I was scared and sad. It's only about half an hour from our cottage, he told me as we drove to Deben Manor. You won't be far from home. Why have we never visited them before? I asked, if they live so close. Oh, my sister's busy, Dad said in an offhand manner, with her painting and her family. We live different lives. He gave a gruff laugh. She's moved up in the world. Or she thinks she has, anyway. He'd shaken his head. She's even changed her name. Calls herself Callista now. His fingers whitened on the steering wheel. I don't know what was wrong with Janet, he muttered. I didn't like the sound of my aunt. My tummy tightened, the sick feeling getting worse. That's it, he said, slowing the car as we drove past a wooden fence with a line of beech trees behind them. Deben Manor. I pressed my nose to the passenger window, glimpsing the house in slices between tree trunks. It looked imposing, sitting on a rise above a long emerald lawn. The house was pale brick with tall windows and a mass of purple wisteria growing up it. Beautiful, isn't it? Dad murmured. Georgian, I think. It's huge, I whispered, thinking of our cosy cottage and how Mum and Dad always felt close, even when I was in my own room at night. And they have a place in France. Dad made a little cluck of disapproval. You'd think that one big house would be enough for any family. My aunt was like a beautiful version of Dad. The sharp nose and narrow eyes that made Dad look a bit like a hawk somehow worked on her, all her features in exactly the right place. Her slenderness gave her an ethereal look in her paint-splattered dungarees. "I'm so sorry about Irene. It must be awful," she said in a stagey whisper to Dad, and then turned to me. "And you must be Meg. I last saw you as a little thing, gosh, years ago." Her voice rose, becoming overly loud and cheerful. "You'll have such fun this summer with my girls." She lifted her head, yelling, "Clementine, Thea, Ophelia, come and be nice to your cousin." Dad had a Suffolk accent. Even when she shouted, my aunt sounded as if she was reading the news on the BBC. I shrank in embarrassment as 3 older girls appeared, a dark-haired, imperious beauty, a strawberry redhead with enviable waist-skimming locks, and a tall girl with white blonde hair. I saw myself through their eyes, a boring, plain child come to spoil their summer. In contrast, they were gorgeous and sophisticated and towered over me. Through her open shirt and between her minuscule bikini, I caught glimpses of the blonde's flat, tanned stomach. Strings of tiny, colourful beads looped her wrists, and all 3 had the same elaborate gold pendants at their necks. I couldn't quite make out the design. Aunt Callista reeled off the girls' names. Then she put her arm through Dad's and took him off into the kitchen to have a quick coffee, leaving me at the mercy of the sisters. "How old are you?" asked the dark one, yawning. Thea, I remembered. 11? "Aren't you small for 11? The blonde asked, Ophelia. "Maybe," I whispered, raising up onto my tiptoes. "We should call her Mouse," announced the redhead, Clementine. The other 2 laughed. "Meg the Mouse," Ophelia said. "Perfect, Clem." I wobbled on my toes, grabbed the back of a chair and sank down onto flat feet. When I dared to look up, they were whispering together. I cleared my throat. "How old are you?" "I'm nearly 12, Clementine said, playing with her necklace and looking bored. Thea sat on the arm of the sofa, her hands in her pockets. 15, she said, gazing out of the window. "And I'm the oldest," Ophelia said. "I'm 17 3/4. "She thinks she's grown up," Thea added. "Ha!" Ophelia laughed. "You'll never be older than me." I was jealous of their familiarity, their easy bantering. I'd always wanted a sister or brother. "I like your bracelets," I told Ophelia. "These." She held up her wrists, loops of beads sliding down, rainbow colours glinting. "Got them in a French market. We went to our house in France in half-term." "We were supposed to go again for August," Clem added, "but Ma says we have to stay at home because of you." I didn't know if I should apologise for depriving them of their French holiday. I was desperately trying to think of something else to say, a comment on how close in age I was to Clem, perhaps, when, as if acting on an unheard order, they turned to leave the room. I watched them go, chatting to each other in low voices. I was alone, except for their dog, an Afghan hound, who leant against my knee and snuffled into my hand hopefully. I fondled the animal's silky ears and glanced up to find 3 pairs of eyes gazing back at me. My cousin's portraits hung on the wall. I hadn't noticed before. There had been so much else in the room to distract me. The pictures were almost life-size. In daubs and strokes of colour, the artist had picked out the exact details of each girl's features, the sinuous folds of their silky dressing gowns, the glint of gold around their necks. Overwhelmed by the force of those painted stares that told me that I wasn't good enough, pretty enough, or clever enough, I turned away, stripping my thumbnail down to the quick with my front teeth until I tasted blood. Chapter 3. My first night back at Deben Manor, I blink into darkness, forgetting for a second where I am. Something woke me, a door slamming. It takes me another second to orientate myself. Moonlight slants through a gap in the thin curtains. The scent of leather and cloves sends adrenaline rushing through me. My ears strain for sounds, but I can't hear anything except the click and tap of the sleeping house, old timbers, mice in the cavities, pipes creaking. I lean across and check my phone. It's 3 a.m. The scream of my alarm shocks me out of sleep. I remember waking last night, the slam of a door. I must have been dreaming. I sit up, shivering. The room is icy. Maybe I need to bleed the radiator. Yesterday I'd felt triumph that my disguise had worked, but now I feel sick about it. How am I going to keep it up? What if Clem or Thea recognises me today? I pull on my clothes and stumble along the landing to the bathroom. Ophelia pointed out where the kids slept on our whirlwind tour, but with the noise they're making, I wouldn't have had any problem tracking them down. It's Saturday, and I'm not supposed to be working, but I can't ignore the racket. I push open the door to Artemis's room and find her sitting on top of her brother in a bedroom strewn with clothes and toys. She's holding his wrists by his head, shouting into his face as he writhes and screams. Both are still in their pyjamas. I haul her up under her armpits and then help Kit to his feet. I hate Artie. He's sobbing, but as soon as he's free, he aims a kick at her knee. Pig! Hey. I pull him back. Come on, this isn't the way to start the day. Let's see who can get dressed first, and they get to choose breakfast. Can we have anything we like? Artemis checks. I nod. Except sausages. I'll get some when I go to the shops, but I'll have to ask Mummy first. Mummy's in bed, Artemis says. She doesn't like to be disturbed in the morning. I try a tickling tactic, chasing them around the bed and making them both giggle until they're too limp to resist getting into their clothes. Auntie Thea and Auntie Clem are coming for lunch today, Artemis announces, as she allows me to brush her hair. My hand falters before I find the rhythm of the brush again. That will be nice, I say. I've given the children their lunch, and I'm in the middle of stacking plates in the dishwasher when Ophelia comes in with bulging grocery bags. I expect her to apologise for abandoning me with her offspring on my day off, but she dumps her shopping on the table without glancing in my direction. God, it's freezing outside, she announces, as she unpacks luscious-looking olives, jars of hummus and packets of ham and cheese wrapped in greaseproof paper that must have come from a deli in town. She's unwrapping a triangle of squishy brie when the doorbell rings. Could you get that? She says, licking her fingers. Bring them straight through. Artemis bounces on her chair in excitement. Can I let them in? Margaret will do it. Ophelia tilts her head meaningfully in the direction of the front door. I wipe my palms over my jeans and walk into the hall, heart thumping against my ribcage. I pull it open, trying to compose my expression into innocent blankness. A dark-haired woman and another with scarlet hair are standing on the step. Even with noses pink from the cold, they're as attractive and glamorous as I'd imagined they would be. Thea flicks back her glossy bob, her eyes bright and searching. I shrink under her scrutiny. Who are you? She asks. The new nanny, I mutter, unable to hold her gaze any longer. Margaret. Oh, you know. Clem jogs her sister's elbow. Didn't you help Ophelia decide on her? She gives me a slow once-over. Immaculate references, I seem to remember. Clem must dye her hair. It wasn't such a bright red when she was a child. She's clutching a bottle of wine. She's much thinner, too. I'm shocked by her hollowed cheekbones and coat-hanger shoulders. Thea gives me a cool stare. Ophelia doesn't have much luck with nannies. Half of them run off in tears. She raises one eyebrow at her sister. The last one was completely mad, remember? She thought the house was haunted. And the one before that, well, less said about that, the better. Don't mind her, Clem tells me with a tight smile. She's always grumpy before she eats. That's so not true, Thea is saying as they go past me. Dead leaves whirl towards the house. I shut the door against the howling wind, taking the time to breathe deeply. It's all right. I've passed the second test. I was invisible to them when I was a child, and they have no reason to suspect the tall, gangly nanny with the shock of dark curls is really the cousin they called Mouse. The women are already marching through to the kitchen. I can hear them greeting their sister, the rustle of coats being shed, chairs being pulled out. There's the sound of children's voices, an excited giggle from Artemis. When I reach the kitchen, the adults are sitting at the table, and Ophelia is pouring the wine. She glances up at me. Did they introduce themselves? She asks, gesturing towards them. Thea and Clem, this is Margaret. Clem makes an affirmative noise in her throat as she leans forward to tickle her nephew's tummy. Artemis has climbed onto Thea's lap and is playing with a pendant hanging around her aunt's neck on a gold chain. The Aldridge pendant, the same as the one my mum wears in the Polaroid. Leave that, Thea says, setting Artemis to the floor. Run and play. Glass of wine? Ophelia asks me. I shake my head because she seems to expect me to look after the children, even though my contract states I have Saturdays off. I don't want to make a fuss on my first day here, not with all three sisters in the room. Cheers. She turns to the others, lifting her glass. How are things? In a low voice, I encourage a reluctant Kit and Artemis to leave the room as the women chat, talking about Clem's upcoming audition for a new TV drama and Thea's plans for a fashion show in Ipswich. I've just managed to persuade both children to come with me when a question from Thea jolts me into stillness. Have either of you heard from Ma? I pause at the door, holding Kit's hand, Artemis scowling up at me. I talked to her on the phone the other night, Clem says. Did you ask her? Thea says. About, the situation hasn't changed. Maybe we should visit anyway, Ophelia suggests. We should insist. We can't, Clem says. You know the rule. She's adamant about it, and we promised. It's a stupid rule, Thea mutters. It's been bloody years now. It shouldn't be held over our heads like this. Ophelia looks up at me. Was there something you wanted, Margaret? No, I say, my face stinging with heat. We're just going. As soon as I'm out in the corridor, the door to the kitchen is softly closed behind me. Something makes me hesitate and I turn back. I stand with my ear to the door. The three of them are murmuring in urgent voices, but I can't catch any words. How strange. Why won't Callista allow her daughters to visit? What are you doing? Demands Artemis loudly, and I put my finger to my lips. Playing a game, I whisper, walking away before she can say anything else. Hearing the sisters together gives me the same needy feeling I got that summer, when I was their annoying cousin, foisted onto them for the holiday, forever the outsider, never privy to their secrets. Only I'm not a child anymore, and I'm here for a reason. I can't change the past or bring a dead man back to life, but I can try to find out the truth. Chapter 4. It's Monday morning, and I need to get the kids to school, but there's no sign of Ophelia and I have no instructions on what to do. I leave the children in the bathroom cleaning their teeth and knock on Ophelia's door. There's a muffled reply and I stick my head into a gloomy space, foggy with last night's sleep, curtains pulled against the morning. A shape moves under the covers, raising her head from the pillow. She tweaks up one side of an eye mask. Yes? Sorry, I say, but I don't know where Artemis's school is. She sighs and raises herself into a sitting position. Damn, I should have told you yesterday. She slips a silk dressing gown around her shoulders, pushes her feet into a pair of downy slippers and pads past me. The children must have heard her voice as they come tearing out of the bathroom, mouths whitened with toothpaste, and throw themselves at her long legs. Mummy, Artemis says, you taking me to school? No, darling. Ophelia extracts fistfuls of robe from her daughter's grasp. That's Margaret's job now. Mummy has other things to do. I wonder what things exactly. As far as I could tell from my internet search, Ophelia Manners doesn't have a job, or work for a charity, or anything else that could take up her entire day. With the kids settled at the breakfast table, Ophelia calls me into a little room off the kitchen that used to be a walk-in pantry. It's a cosy office now, with a laptop on a glass table and an array of framed family photos on the windowsill, including one of the sisters together, pendants around their necks. Those necklaces, I say. I noticed them in your portraits. How come you and your sisters have the same one? They were made for our ancestors, 3 other Aldridge sisters, she says. Our father said he always hoped for 3 daughters so that we could inherit them. So there isn't another one like it? She shoots me a puzzled look. No. Why? No reason. My face colours. She sits at the desk on an ergonomic chair. I'll write down the address of their schools. She scribbles on a notepad, tucking some hair behind her ear, exposing a large diamond stud. Artie goes in every day. She finishes at noon on Wednesdays. And Kit is in nursery 3 mornings a week, Monday to Wednesday. His nursery is part of her school, so it's just one place for you to go. But I want you to do all the school runs. She glances up at me. I gather you have a clean license. You can use our little runaround, the white Fiat outside. As she hands me the keys, my eye is caught by another photo. Lucian Aldridge stares at me, chin tilted. Clouds scud past behind him, sails in the background. He's wearing a navy sailor's cap, his distinctive reddish hair sticking out from under it. He's dishevelled by the wind, and a broad grin makes apples of his ruddy cheeks. But his smile is not for me. His blue eyes regard me coldly. I know who you are. I shudder and turn away, but Ophelia has noticed. My father, she says. Lucian Aldridge. It's his portrait in the hall. He was killed years ago in a tragic accident. I'm sorry, I say. She leans in to look at the photo. We miss him terribly. What happened? I force myself to ask. If you don't mind me asking. Anticipation kicks at my ribs as she seems to consider my question. Then she slowly turns away from me. He drowned, she says softly, facing his photo. He died saving someone. Our cousin. She breaks off, swallows. She was always pestering him to give her sailing lessons. There was an accident. Nobody knows what really happened. He was a skilled sailor. She turns back to me, and her eyes have hardened into a glassy stare. We took her in when she needed shelter. She straightens her shoulders. If she hadn't been here, he'd still be with us. My mouth dries, and I take a step back. It was my fault. This is what Dad tried to protect me from knowing. It's airless and claustrophobic in the room. I can't breathe. Guilt squeezes oxygen from my body. I close my eyes against a grey wave of remembering. Blood blooms thick and bright against pale skin. The image knocks me sideways. My knees falter and I lean against the doorframe. Are you okay? Ophelia is there, her nails sharp on my elbow. I blink at her, the room swimming back into focus. Maybe I need to eat something. Low blood sugar. Well, you'd better hurry up, she says doubtfully. It's a 15-minute drive to the school, and it'll take you 10 minutes to get Kit into his car seat. She wraps her robe around her and disappears, hair swishing at her back. A pain in my hand makes me wince. Unclenching my fingers, I look down at the point of the car key digging into my flesh. The first time I'd met Lucian, he'd come striding into the kitchen at lunchtime, a broad-shouldered giant, his hair a flame of red gold. "Pa!" Thea jumped up. He scooped her to his chest. "How are my beauties?" he asked in a booming voice. "I've missed you." The other two rushed to him and threw their arms around his waist, the four of them huddling together in such a tangle of joy it hurt to look at them. I wished my own dad were there, although he'd never behave like this. He'd never call me his beauty. He called me Squirt because I was small. "Where have you been?" Ophelia was asking. "In London. Pa has to work, my darling," he said, dropping a kiss onto her silvery head. "And who is this stranger at our table?" He looked at me with a bright gaze, but his teasing smile betrayed his question. He knew perfectly well who I was, but he was enjoying the joke. "She's Meg," Clem told him. "Our cousin." "But we call her Mouse," Ophelia said. "Her mother ran away," Thea added. "Well, the child doesn't want to be reminded of that," he admonished gently as he relinquished his clutch of daughters. "I'm hungry. Who's going to make me some lunch?" He clapped his hands as if calling an army of servants. "An omelette, 2 eggs, lots of cheese. I'm ravenous." "I will," they chorused. "Me." Despite his energy, his exaggerated gestures and booming voice, there was a stillness about him. I didn't understand it completely, but I sensed a power coming from him, as if his certainty made him even bigger than he already was. While Ophelia prepared his lunch, Clem and Thea sat either side, leaning towards him, telling him how the new kittens were getting on. "They're thriving, are they?" he said. "And I suppose the father was that great ginger brute we see hanging around, the rascal who yowls all night." He tutted. "And now he's had his evil way with our lovely Lola." "Some of them are turning out ginger like him," Ophelia said, putting a cup of tea in front of him. "But some are black, and 2 look more like her." "What about your piano practice, Ophelia?" He took a sip of tea. "I hope you've kept it up. I expect to hear that Mozart piece this weekend." "Yes, Pa," she said as she cracked eggs into a bowl. "I've almost got it now." "And you, Thea," he said. "How was your last ballet lesson at school?" In answer, she slipped from her chair and span around on one leg, arms held in front of her as if clutching a beach ball. I didn't know much about ballet, despite having had lessons myself, but I could tell she was elegant and poised as she did a little hop, landing on one leg and sticking the other straight out in the air behind her. I wished that I'd paid more attention in my own dance classes with Mum's friend Claire. Their father laughed. "You'll be starring in Swan Lake in no time." "And I've been chosen for the athletics team again for next term," Clementine told him, not to be outdone. "The hurdles and the 500 metres. "I was an athlete at school too," he said. "I believe my records are still unbroken." He patted her cheek. "You take after me." And suddenly his gaze was aimed at me. Something in his eyes had clouded. "I can't say that you look much like your mother," he said, as if talking to himself. Or your father, for that matter. He winked at me. Are you sure you aren't a changeling? A hated blush boiled under my skin. Do you know my parents? I managed, as I couldn't remember ever meeting this man. He wasn't someone I'd have forgotten. Of course, he said. My wife is your father's sister. I was at your parents' wedding, and I met you when you were a baby. Energy emanated from him like a magnetic force. It was impossible not to feel drawn to him. When he turned his attention on me, it wasn't just my cheeks burning. I glowed inside. I wanted his smile, his approval. I wanted him to look at me in the same way he looked at his daughters, as if they were the most precious things in the world. A woman came into the kitchen, dragging a hoover. She was wearing a blue housecoat, a floral scarf tied around her dark hair. Morning, Mrs. K, Lucian said. Or is it afternoon already? How are you? Can't complain, Mr. Aldrich, she said. Mr. Kerry's chest is better, I hope, he said. And how's the rest of your family? Your lovely daughters? They're doing well at school, she said. Karin's got it into her head that she wants to be a film director. A film director? Well, that is a fine ambition. He finished his lunch and stood up. We'll let you get on in here, he said. Come along, girls. Let's leave Mrs. K to try and tame the chaos. Obediently, I trailed behind the four of them, trying to think of something to say that would draw his approval, his light, towards me. A loud yelp and a crash interrupts my reminiscing. I hurry towards the sound. In the kitchen, Artemis is standing barefoot in a mess of smashed bowls, cereal and milk, her breakfast splattered over her nightdress and the floor. He made me drop it. She points an accusing finger at Kit. He did it on purpose. Kit bursts into tears. I grab a cloth from the sink. Don't move, either of you, till I clear this up, I tell them as I get onto my knees. These broken bits are sharp. No need to cry, Kit, I'm sure it was an accident. I add. The word accident echoes inside my head. I can't unhear what Ophelia said. The sisters think it's my fault their father's dead. Why can't I remember what I did? Chapter 5. The next day, after dropping Artemis at school and Kit at nursery, I drive into Charsford and pick up some groceries, including several packs of sausages. The village shop hasn't changed. The woman behind the counter is the same too, just older, greyer. She continues to chat to another customer without giving me a second glance as she hands over my change. Back in Deben Manor, there's a note on the hall table from Ophelia telling me she's gone out. With a fizz of excitement, I realise I have the place to myself. This is my opportunity to look around properly. I have no idea what I'm looking for, but I'm confident I'll know it when I see it. I'll get the shopping unpacked and put away first. I bump the kitchen door open with my hip, arms full of bags, but nearly drop them in shock when I realise I'm not alone. A wiry woman at the sink turns to me, hands clad in yellow marigolds. I recognise her. She's even wearing the same type of housecoat. Her hair has turned iron grey and it's pinned into a neat bun. She's thinner in the face, but it's Mrs. K, without a doubt. It hadn't occurred to me that she'd still be working here. I cringe inside, but have no choice but to brazen it out. Hello, I say, putting the bags on the table. I'm Margaret, the new nanny. I heard you were here, she says, appraising me with pale eyes. The last one didn't last 5 minutes. Hope you're made of sterner stuff. She seems unaware that she's met me before. I breathe a sigh of relief. If I'd passed her in the street, I might not have recognised her either, Context makes a memory prompt. I hope so too, I say. I'm Mrs. Kerry, she says. You can call me Mrs. K. Will you be long in the kitchen? I ask as casually as I can. Want to make lunch, do you? Her voice is sharp. No, I say quickly. No hurry. I'll be another 30 minutes, then I'm going upstairs, she says. It's my day for changing the sheets. I'll just unpack this slot then, I say, and I'll leave you in peace. She bustles around while I put the groceries away as fast as possible, shoving packets of sausages in the fridge. I don't want to waste any of the 30 minutes I have left. I sense her giving me sideways looks and keep my face turned away. I decide the place to begin my search is the attic. It's furthest from the kitchen, and I may as well start at the top and work my way down. I've never seen inside it. The room was always locked. It used to hold a fascination because of it. My first night at Deben Manor as a child, I'd woken to find myself outside that door, toes curling against cold floorboards. I'd blinked into the gloom, too scared to move. It wasn't the first time I'd sleepwalked, but it was the first time away from home. At the cottage, Mum or Dad would guide me back to bed. I didn't know where I was. My nose itched. Funny-smelling smoke drifted from the floor. I shivered, peering around, unable to get my bearings. I put my hand out and came up against a wooden surface, feeling along it and down, locating a handle. I tried to open it, but however hard I pressed, the door refused to give. Panic shot through me. As my blindness receded, shapes formed from the shadows. I wasn't inside a room. I was outside it, standing on a narrow landing with a steep flight of stairs behind me. I must be at the top of the house. The smoke seemed to be coming from under the locked door, but there were no crackling flames, no sign of burning. The next morning at breakfast, I'd asked Ophelia about the room. It's where Pa keeps the art stuff that he's going to sell, she told me. Inside, there's a special sealed container for paintings that need to be kept at the right temperature. We were here when he had it delivered, a metal crate. She crunched a mouthful of toast. It took 3 men to carry it up the stairs. She laughed. They were swearing and sweating, but Pa was excited. I was intrigued by the idea of this container. What kind of temperature does it have to be at? She swallowed and licked her lips. I don't know exactly, she said, but paintings can't get too hot or too cold, or damp or anything, or they'll be spoiled. Can I see? She shook her head. We're not allowed up there. Ophelia told me the smoke drifting under the door was from her father's cigar. He kept a box of them on his desk in his study, the lid decorated with bright parrots and gold scrolls. But he often smoked in the attic while he was working. After that, when I'd woken at night to the scent of cloves and leather, I knew Lucien was in the room above, sorting through his latest acquisitions. It had been reassuring knowing he was close. I could even hear him sometimes, the creak of a floorboard as he trod across my ceiling. I glance at my watch. I should have at least 20 minutes left for my search if I hurry. Leaving Mrs. Kerry in the kitchen, I go through the hall and up the main staircase to the first floor, moving softly along the landing, then up the narrow, steep flight to the attic. The bare boards are slippery. It makes me shudder to think of myself as a child climbing them in my sleep. It's a miracle I didn't break my neck. At the top, the door is shut. Hesitantly, I push against it, turning the handle. It doesn't move. I shiver. This part of the house is freezing. A whistling draught bites at my ankles. I step away from the door, wondering if the sealed container is still inside, and if any of Lucien's treasures remain in there. I can't think of any other reason why the door would stay locked after all this time. As I go back down, I hear the roar of the Hoover. It's too risky to start searching other rooms with Mrs. Carey on the loose. There must be a key to the attic somewhere. I'll look for it as soon as I have the opportunity. My chance comes that evening. The kids are in bed, Mrs. Carey has gone home, and I've put the kettle on for a cup of tea when Ophelia sashays into the kitchen, red dress swirling around her knees, high heels clicking on the tiles. "I'm nipping out," she says. "Saul will be home late. You don't mind babysitting, do you?" "That's fine, I'm staying in," I add unnecessarily. The kettle boils, and I get up to pour water into my cup, pushing the tea bag against the side. "Good." She smiles with painted lips, gazing past me at her reflection caught in the dark glass of the window. A toss of her head sends her hair swinging around her shoulders like a shampoo commercial. After she leaves, I wait to hear the front door shut, then the sound of tyres on the gravel. I count to 10 slowly to check she's really gone before I slip into her study and begin to open drawers. I rifle through paperwork, pulling out plastic folders and phone chargers, lip balms, receipts, stubs of pencils, and old diaries. There's no sign of any key. The only thing I'm uncovering are Ophelia's untidy habits. She's the kind of person who keeps pristine surfaces, but underneath, in hidden cupboards and drawers, a tangled mess lurks. I pick up a lipstick without a top, the waxy end crushed to a stump and speckled with dirt. "Looking for something?" I gasp and swing around. A man dressed in a suit, tie loosened around his neck, stands there, leaning against the doorframe. He's got cheekbones to cut yourself on. He pushes a hand through thick, dark hair. "The nanny, I presume?" I nod warily. "Margaret Danby." "Saul." His gaze flicks over me, lingering at my waist and legs, and returning to my face. "The husband." His tone is ironic, eyes mocking. I feel a blush starting at the base of my neck and turn away, not wanting him to see the blaze in my cheeks. "You're off limits, Margaret Danby," he says. "What are you doing here?" I glance at the open drawers, the piles of paper I've dumped on the desk. My mind scrabbles for an excuse. "The contact number for Artemis's school," I invent. "She may not be able to go into."